Hashem's Vasai Tivtach L'Pia Gita Sacha. We're now in the 7th Perek of Melachim Alef. In this Perek, we have Shlomo building not only the Beis HaMikdash, but now he's going to build a palace, a grand palace, to highlight to all of the world that we are an orderly people. We are a majestic people. We are B'nai and Benos Malka. We are very, very royal, and we have the entire world at our fingertips. And this grand palace had so many, it was a complex. It had so many different parts. So one of the parts was very interesting. There was a forest area. It looked like, because there were so many columns, it gave off the impression of being an actual forest. And the length of it was 100 cubits. It was 50 cubits wide and 30 cubits high. And it was absolutely amazing. Again, planked with was so much wealth, because these columns were tall and they were made of the best wood, and they were absolutely an amazing, amazing feat. In addition to which, there were other areas within the complex. He makes a throne that is absolutely significant, and he has it in his hall of Mishpat and Ulam HaMishpat. He had learned from the Beis HaMikdash, just like the Sanhedrin was designated an area which was right off of the area of the Beis HaMikdash. So to here, where he had to pronounce judgment, was also in this Ulam HaMishpat. There was also an area that he made just for his wife, Bas Paro. She had her own special area. Again, this was a marriage of political association, and it's possible that he wanted to, in somewhat, keep her siphoned off from everywhere else. And these buildings had great gems, and those gems, by the way, those gems were able to be hewn and smoothed out on all the sides, unlike what we have, because the function of them is to highlight the smooth and the ease in which Shlomo HaMelech was able to reign. And there were beautiful stones galore, and the best wood. And so this was really a dedication of sorts to the idea that we are representative of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in this world, and we have the world at our fingertips. And it was something that was absolutely amazing. Now, getting back to the Beis HaMikdash, now we're going to understand the inside, the interior decoration of the Beis HaMikdash. Now, who was it that was in charge? Interestingly enough, it's this man named Hiram from Tzur. Now, he is not Hiram Melech Tzur. He is not the other Hiram that we know from Tzur. Go figure, there's a different Hiram from Tzur. And what's interesting is that he was from the Shevet of Dan, and his father was from Naphtali. And what's interesting about this situation is that he is the representative of Dan, and then we have Yehuda, obviously, and they're working together in tandem. And what's significant about that is remember, Shlomo HaMelech is all about shalom, and is all about shleimus, completion, and also peace. And the Shevet of Dan was in the back. They were the last ones to push things along. And it's written about them, Gur Aryeh. And just like Shevet Yehuda, which was in the forefront, is Gur Aryeh. And so what we see here is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu brings everybody together. Now, what was very interesting about Hiram Melech Tzur is the idea of what were his capabilities. He had Vayimalei es hachachma, tivuna, and das. He had 3 different levels of intelligence. Chachma is obvious intelligence. He had wisdom and a stored fund of information that was astounding. Tivuna is intuition. Yodea davar mitoch davar. He was able to figure out. You didn't just have to tell him again and again. He generalized, he chapped, he got it on the first try. He was able to chitra, he figured things out. And das, that comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That is Ruach HaKodesh. We say, Ata chonin la'adam das. We say in Shemona Esrei, please Hashem, give us the strength of intellectual capability, because that all comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And here you have Chachma, Tvuna, and Das. But what's so interesting is that where else do we have Chachma, Tvuna, and Das? But B'Tzalel who built the Mishkan, B'Tzalel who worked with his partner, and together they were also Yehuda and Dan. And here he was also had the capability of the Chachma, the Tvuna, and the Das. And so we have this deep connection between the Mishkan and between the Beis HaMikdash. Now, in addition, very cool, there were these two casts of bronze columns that were huge. And they had on top of it so they were a column of bronze, they had a head of bronze on top of them. And they were so amazing that they actually had a name. Each one had a name, and what because I guess of how big they were, and they were decorated with rimonim, with pomegranates, with all different types of etches on top of etches, with lilies, and they were a sight. They were basically a bronze representation of Gan Eden. And they were so incredibly beautiful. And one of them was called Yachin, and the other one was called Boaz. Why Yachin? Because in order for you to really satisfy the way of Hashem, to continue on in the way of Hashem, you have to Yachin, you have to prepare. We don't go into Shabbos without preparation. We don't go into anything, the kavod, without preparation. Preparation is always in the forefront of success. That's just how it goes. And then we have Boaz. Boaz is strength. We say, okay, if you yachin, then you're able to Boaz. Then you're able to show strength. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he was yachin. He made the world and he prepared. And ultimately, he is able to show his Boaz, his strength. And so that was as you were walking into the Great Hall. In addition to which, there were this entire thing was absolutely amazing. It was amazing in its completely. They had this yam, for example, the yam, which was this water basin. There were interestingly, there were 12 oxen, and that's what it stood on. And there were the yam itself was 10 cubits across from brim to brim. In its circumference, it had 5 cubits high. It was 30 cubits in its circumference, and 10 cubits from brim to brim. And it was absolutely amazing. Now, in addition to which, there were different parts that they had. There were 10 parts of Nechoshech of bronze, and the number 10 again is a number that's significant because a lot of what was in the Mishkan was then multiplied. So while there was one menorah in the time of the Mishkan, and that was the light that Aaron HaKohen was responsible for, that he illuminated the world with Torah, with the right way to be. So here Shlomo HaMelech has 10. And to highlight that it's even more magnified, that this house, which is, significantly larger, obviously, than the Mishkan, also had a significantly larger power than the Mishkan. And so the entirety of it is just really very, very significant. And a lot of what is created, these bronze structures, there's so much gold and silver and bronze, it's astounding. But the idea being, why is it that there is, all of these other kalim? And what they did with the kalim is that a lot of the bronze and these kalim, they were put in the treasury. And the question is, why in the world would they be put in the treasury? So the answer really is based on some midrashim that we know about David HaMelech. We know that David HaMelech he was the one to accumulate all the gold and the silver and the bronze, and he made it his life's mission because he was going to build the Beis HaMikdash. And Hashem said to him, you cannot build the Beis HaMikdash, my David HaMelech, because number one is that if you build the Beis HaMikdash, it is never going to be destroyed. And number two is that this gold and silver and bronze, I'm not going to be using this gold and silver and bronze in your Beis HaMikdash. And I'll tell you why. The first thing is that I don't want a drop of Gaisha stuff in my Beis HaMikdash, because then they're going to say, oh, we're the ones that built it. So this stuff is out. It's staying in the treasury. But even more so, there's a midrash that says that every night David HaMelech would wake up and with the strings of the harp, he would be learning, and ultimately his servants would come and say, you have to support the people need food, the people need this, the people need that, and he would tell them, go out and win some wars and go past your boundaries and fight some battles, and as a result, you'll get what you need. Because he wasn't going to necessarily give the people what they wanted from the storehouses and all of his storage collection. And as a result, Hashem said, what? You chose the Beis HaMikdash over my people? Don't you understand? B'shachanti b'socham. They're more important than the house of sticks and stones. I don't want that house as much as I want them to have what they need. And so that's why you can't build the Beis HaMikdash, David. You can't build the Beis HaMikdash because what's on your hands? The blood of unnecessarily putting my people at war and having to fight and having to get hurt. We don't unnecessarily put people into war. And so as a result, the beautiful amounts of gold and silver and bronze, while it was used in some capacity, it couldn't be used for the structure itself, because that structure was going to highlight the opposite of what that gold and bronze and copper would highlight. And that is, it was going to highlight that v'shachanti b'socham, that we are a people that are so significant to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And so we are not going to use any of that, but any of the grandeur that is going to be found in the Beis HaMikdash is going to be from Shleimus. And that's why King Shlomo is the designated person for that Shleimus. And all throughout Jewish the kings, this treasury is going to be used when they need it. And the money and the treasures in the treasury are going to switch hands many, many times, we'll see, within the Nach. And the question is why? And the answer is exactly what we're saying. B'shachanti b'socham. HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't want us to switch hands. So he takes their gold and silver. Now, eventually, there's nothing that he can do, and he has to switch us into their hands. But for a while there, we have exactly why the Chorban Beis HaMikdash was actually something that was not bad. And that is that Hashem destroyed the sticks and the stones of the Beis HaMikdash because he wasn't going to destroy us. Hashem loves each and every one of us. We are the conduit of bracha and light in this world. And so when we talk about the beautiful palace that Shlomo HaMelech built, what we're really saying is that he was Shalom. And it was in Yerushalayim, which also has the word Shalom in it. And that Shleimus is exactly what it is that will ultimately continue long after the sticks and the stones. What was very interesting is this yam. There's a machlokas as to what the yam was actually for. Some say that it was just a mikvah. Okay, it was a basin of water, and it was there to help so that the people were able to do, the Kohanim were able to do their avodah in the Beis HaMikdash. And others say it's impossible. It couldn't have been there for a mikvah. It must have just been there for them to, just to wash themselves. Why? Because a person who is tameh, a person who is ritually impure, can't be going to the Beis HaMikdash without being tahor. So it can't be that they got there to do, in order to do what they had to do. But essentially what we're saying is that the Beis HaMikdash was a self-supporting situation. it was there, but in its completed form, the goal of it was to allow for us to function in our highest level and in our highest form. And many of the things in the Beis HaMikdash highlight the grandness, the beauty that this world has to bring, and it ties in the yam. Again, when we think about water, we think about Torah. We have an enormous amount of light. When we think about light, we think about Torah, and we have enormous amount of shiny representations of strength and of power, all in service of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And that the beauty of that, yes, it took Shlomo HaMelech 13 years to build this palace, but if we judge it l'tova, what we're saying is that all he wanted was just to show Hashem, wow, Hashem, look how much you've given me, and I'm going to use it to be exactly what you want me to be, which is a representative of you in this world. I'm going to do my best to be bekavod. I'm going to do my best to highlight the strength that you have, the orderliness, the mishpat, all of that together, the areas in this world of chachma, of bina and das. And Emeret Hashem, let's continue to see together how much he is able to accomplish this very lofty and very, very holy goal.